Good evening, everyone. Today we have all gathered here for the first lecture of Shikshana, which will be conducted by our honorable guest, Mr. B. Karthickeyan, sir. I'd now like to request our CMO, Dr. Shruti Tara ma'am, to welcome our guest.
Good evening all, and a very warm welcome. Shankara Eye Hospital, Coimbatore is hosting this episode of Shikshana. Shikshana is a program which is conducted by the Shankara Academy of Vision, where we have eminent speakers from all walks of life who come and deliver their well-researched topics to enlighten us basically. This is nothing to do with ophthalmology or nothing to do with academics, but definitely educative enough. This is intended to incite our thought process, to invoke the hidden thoughts which is there in us. So with this introduction, I would like to invite our speaker for the day. And I'm indeed honored to introduce him. Sir B. Karthickeyan is an ex-banker, is a student of Carnatic music and had tutelage under Sri Guruguha Gana Vidyalaya, a premier institute in Kolkata, whose gurus belong to Shishya Parampara of the venerated Sri Muthuswami Dikshitar, revered as one among the trinity of Carnatic music. Sir B. Karthickeyan, fondly called BK, learnt under late Sri Anantarama Iyer and late Srimati Champakavalli, and then from Guru Srimati A. Srividya, daughter of Sri Anantarama Iyer. BK's interest in philosophy is spurred by the immortal compositions of Sri Muthuswami Dikshitar, which was quintessentially the school of Advaita philosophy propagated by Adi Shankara. His compositions are soaked in Upanishadic thoughts and the esoteric Sri Vidya Upasana. An attempt is being made by Sri BK to explore the amalgamation of Advaita Gnana and Bhakti through the SHANMATHAM, which is the 6 forms of worship, which Adi Shankara firmly established to benefit the lesser mortals like us. With this, I invite Sir onto the podium to take us through his talk.
Sri Gurubhyo Namaha. I consider it as a great privilege and honored to be here in this wonderful institution. I mean, I just came in and I was taken around, and it is, I believe it is, I have entered in a place which is not anything less than a miracle. Such a thing happening in Coimbatore, I was not even aware. I mean, I just came to Coimbatore, of course, 2 years ago. But to find something like this happening is stupendous. And Sir's contribution, I was just hearing, I do not know, I do not have words to express my amazement. And all of you have been partnering him in this wonderful, noble venture. And Mera Bharat Mahan. Thank you all, and a wonderful introduction was given by ma'am. Today, actually, we'll be discussing a kind of a subject which will kind of bring about, like she rightly said, the Gnana, that is the ultimate Gnana, that is the truth, the wisdom, which our Sanatana Dharma stands for, and devotion. How these two, I mean, are interlinked. And the greatest guru we can think of is none other than Adi Shankara Bhagavad Padar. without whom I don't think we would even be standing here, sir. Because Dr. Ramani told me that this organization is because of Mahaparivar. And Mahaparivar's existence is because of Adi Shankaracharya. So that is the greatness of Adi Shankaracharya. You all know that he is the one who really, the time he was in, it was a chaotic time. And the Sanatana Dharma, as we all know, I mean, which is the way of life for us who were residing in Bharata and in India in those times, it was totally, I mean, in a chaotic condition. He's the one who really brought about a total change, and he again re-established Sanatana Dharma, and with such a power that to this day it is still on. We are all familiar with the term Sanatana Dharma, of course, which denotes the ways of life. The etymology of the word dharma is dri. Dri is the etymology, which means to sustain or that which is integral to something. Suppose we say sugar is sweet. That sweetness is the root, the integral thing of the thing called sugar, the sweetness. So similarly, we human beings also have something very, very, very internal to us. Like the sweetness of the sugar, we also have something very, very internal that is really within us, but somehow we have forgotten about it. So that is the thing. And that which is there within us, it is something very permanent in nature and not subject to change. And it is ever Sanatana. The word Sanatana means, I mean, which is infinite. It doesn't have a beginning or the end. So it is also true that it is our nature to be constantly in pursuit of discovering that nature. The very fact that all of us have assembled here, it is with some purpose. What is that purpose? I mean, at the end of the day, we would all like to be happy. That is the main purpose of the human existence. I mean, you do any act, you're doing that act because you want to gain some happiness out of it. Any act which you do, will we be doing anything that will bring sadness to us? Certainly not. So any act of ours is always constantly pursued towards seeking that happiness. So, but what happens is in the seeking of the happiness, we choose certain paths which we soon discover it is not the right path. So we are brought a stage when we become miserable. So that is what normally that happens. So the dharma which is we are being talking about has two aspects. One is the spiritual aspect, that is the discovering our own self. And the other is the material aspect. We'll have to sustain ourselves. We'll have to sustain this body. And for that, we'll have to do certain karmas. So for example, you doctors, I mean, you are doing this wonderful work here, but at the same time, I mean, you are being to an extent materialistic, that in the sense that you would like to take home some salary to sustain yourself. So there are two aspects to this. So, but the thing is, whatever act which you do, it should be an ideal act. So that is what is Sanatana Dharma is about. That is an act which is not, I mean, it does not have a taint in it. And this Sanatana Dharma, that is this way of life which then existed. I mean, people did not really break it into a kind of religion or anything like that. People just lived a life as was told by the sages and seers in those times. But as it happened, as the days progressed, we got into this tangle called religion. Okay, so particularly the Britishers were clearly responsible for this great divide. Hinduism, Buddhism, Islam, all that. Okay, but it is not that they did not have a reason for not doing that, because all the other religions which we are talking about, it has got a certain person, okay, who is at the hem of the affairs. For example, in Buddhism, the Buddha is a founder of that religion. Prophet Muhammad is the founder of the Islam religion. Jesus Christ, again, but do we have one such person for our Hinduism? Never. It is all just the sages and sages over the millennia. I mean, as the years roll by, as the hundreds of years roll by, as thousands of years roll by, everywhere you will find some sage or a rishi or a muni coming into picture. And depending on the situation then existed, they would bring about the changes in life which will suit ideally. That is very important. And now in this process, we are guided by what are called the Vedas. The Vedas are the handbook. See, you buy a computer, it comes with a handbook. You buy a mobile, it comes with a manual, right, sir? So similarly, this machine called human being, it comes with a handbook, which are the Vedas. So, but the interpretation of the Vedas, it varied from time to time because it had to suit the changes that were happening. It's a natural change. It's a natural process. But the changes that were brought about, they were ideal changes. That is what it is. So the Vedas are apaurishaya. I mean, it does not have a clear writer. It just came. I mean, the deep meditation of the seers and sages, it just poured out. So the Vedas are the manuals for good ideal living. It is for ideal living, and essentially it contains two parts. I mean, most of you will almost be knowing it. One is the rituals part, which is in the Vedas, and the other is the Vedanta part, that is the which gives the true perspective of the realization of the self, which I started. So, but the term this dharma, it doesn't have a proper equivalent in the English language. Does that mean righteousness? Does that mean duty? Does that mean morality? In fact, this dharma, it encompasses all this and a little more. So dharma is designed to communicate the view that there is an underlying structure of a natural law, a natural and intelligent order, and that is inherent in the very intrinsic constitution of being self. This is a quotation which I read out for you. This, I thought, is a wonderful, comprehensive quotation of the word dharma. And this incidentally was from Tattvaloka magazine, which is brought out by, that's a wonderful quotation. I thought I would just pick it up. So just as every individual component of the world around us has its own dharma, like I told you, a sugar has its own dharma. This table has its own dharma. The wood has its own dharma. So on the microcosmic level, the world itself as a whole has a dharma. In the macrocosmic level, there is a natural order that is governing its creation, its sustenance, its dissolution. So that is the Srishti, Sthiti, and Laya. So these three are inevitable for the universe as a whole. So everything that is being created, it will sustain itself for some time and then it will dissolve. So this is the dharma of the macrocosmic whole and also the microcosm. Okay, there seems to be a perfect rhythm of the things that are happening. That also you will notice. A cycle of events that are happening. That is the creation, sustenance, and dissolution. It seems to be happening at a beautiful regular phase. So suppose the things that are created, if they are not dissolved, you can imagine what's going to happen. So answering the questions of who is creating, who is the sustainer, who is the one who is dissolving, it is the subject of philosophy. Okay, that is the word, the philosophy, you all know that it comes from the Latin word philosophia. I mean, that is a love of wisdom. That is what it means. It is a rational, abstract, and a methodical consideration of reality as a whole, or of fundamental dimensions of human existence and experience. Okay, I'm repeating this. It is a rational, abstract, and methodical consideration of reality as a whole, or of fundamental dimensions of human existence and experience. Simply put, it is a study of knowledge about the general problems, facts, and situations connected with human existence, values, reasons, and general reality. So this is what it's about. So you have two branches of philosophy. One is the Western philosophy, and you have this Oriental or the Eastern philosophy. While the Western philosophy, it keeps the self, me, I in the center, and branches out. Okay. Thus, it is creating a great divide. I mean, it is saying, I am observing the world. I am seeing this world at large. So that is the main idea of the Western philosophy. It branches out. Whereas our philosophy, it looks inward. That is the greatest divide, difference you can say between the Western and the Eastern philosophy. Our philosophy always asks us to look inside. Okay, based on the foundation of the distinction. The distinction between the I and the outer world is the basic point in our Eastern philosophy, that removal of that distinction. So, outer world is because of the false me. Because there is a false me, which is not my real nature, this outer world is existing. You see, I am seeing this table from this angle. I'm seeing it differently from what you're seeing, right? So the perception of the things that we see around, it depends on the person, his psyche, and from the angle from which he is seeing, and which is not the same for the other person. So the truth, which is there as truth, it is revealed differently to different persons at different points of time. And I think it is easier to understand, easy to understand that point. So this Sanatana Dharma, which we began, it's the edifice of that is self-discovery. We'll have to discover ourselves. And that prescription for this discovery is the true self, is that which we find in the Vedas as we started. And that is the workbook which we have, and which has been interpreted in various ways in different points of time. And even now it is happening in the present modern systems. The monks of the Ramakrishna mission, or even on our own Kanchi Matam and all, depending on the kind of people we are living with, they interpret it so that it becomes understandable to us. It may not be the same thing that was being told, say, 800 years ago, 900 years ago, because that the situation then was different. Now the situation is different, but the central theme always remains the same. And the inquiry of the external, it gets exhausted. And the Jiva redirects itself with finite to gather the knowledge that all that is external are only projections. Like I told you, it are only projections. And I, the Jiva, am not anything different from the world, is what is to be understood. See, let me give an analogy to this. The Vedas are the thing that tell us the water is there. This is the way it is to be drunk. Okay. And the Upanishads, which are the end of the Vedas, that the Vedanta, it tells us, the Veda shows the water is there, and the Upanishads tells us how to drink the water. That is the Vedanta. But the drinking of the water has to be performed by me only or you only. It will only take us to that point, but the drinking of the water and the experiencing the bliss of drinking the water has to be done by that particular individual. The Vedas and Upanishads will only show you to that extent, but later on, the act has to be performed by you to experience that bliss. And when you're experiencing that bliss of drinking the water, your thirst is quenched. At that point of time, do we calculate, oh, Vedas or Upanishads, and this is the path I walked, this is how I came to the river, this is how I drank? Nothing. At the point of drinking the water, what remains in us is the total bliss or the ananda. Right or wrong? We are not calculating how much kilometer I walked to reach this river and how much did I bend to nothing. When I drink the water, the first thing I experience is the bliss, the ananda. We don't calculate. So this point, this ananda, if it has to be a continuous thing in our life, then what is very essential is we discard everything, including the Vedas and the Upanishads. We must remain only in that point of ultimate bliss. That is the central theme of our philosophy. The sages and seers, they were unanimous in their hypothesis that all this creation, sustenance, and dissolution is the play of what is called the absolute Brahman. So our thing is, it will be slightly be paradoxical. So when I'm saying absolute Brahman, which means I am bringing in an element of someone who is outside you. But again, just take the example of a spider. And just as a spider would spin a web around it with what is in itself, a spider, it spins a web around it from what is that is there within itself. It doesn't take external help in the equipments to build that kind of a web. That which is within itself, it creates that kind of a web. So similarly, the Upanishads, they point out this example to say the world which we are seeing are only, it is the projection from what is there within inside us. Like a spider which is spinning a web from what is that within itself, like that we are also spinning this world from that which is there within ourselves. This is a concept. It's very difficult to understand this concept. And that is where Adi Shankaracharya comes to our aid. And all the great rishis and sages who all pre-existed before Adi Shankara, their point of view was also the same. And Adi Shankara only tried to make it simple by his Advaita philosophy. Advaita means not two. There is no division. Dvaita means two. Advaita means only one. That which has no second. So this operation which these philosophers employed about understanding of this Brahman principle is not this. They used to understanding that Brahman, what they will do is, say, for example, take a chain, a gold chain which you are wearing. Okay. All these examples you must have heard before also. The gold chain, the same gold is used for even making the ring. So what is the component of that gold chain which you are wearing, or the ring some of us are wearing? It is the gold. But it is only truly gold. You can break it. The gold can be aurum, that is the scientific, it can be further be broken down. into electrons, protons, neutrons. You call it, name it. Okay, so you can go deep down, and ultimately, I mean, it becomes endless. So the chain which you are not wearing is not exactly, I mean, the chain, it is the gold, and then you break it down. Or the shirt which I am wearing, it is first the cloth, then it is a thread, then it is a component that goes on to make the thread, and so on. So it is only our perception that this is a shirt, but deep down it is something else. So that is the thing. So they break it down, and come to a conclusion that what that exists, it's only the pure absolute Brahman. And all these, the things which we are looking in this Vyavaharika world, as they call it, I mean, the functional world, are all a kind of an illusion, Maya. These are the words that are constantly that are used in our philosophy. So the confusion arises because we perceive things differently, as, I mean, rather, I mean, perceive things differently, not understanding its true nature. That is the basic problem. Like, for instance, the serpent and rope example, which they normally give. Once you see, I mean, you see in semi-darkness a rope, and you think it is a serpent. The immediate reaction is fear. That fear is uncalled for, because it is after all a rope. So the ones that clarity of thought that it is a rope comes, then your fear also vanishes. So similarly, in your day-to-day experiences, day-to-day, I mean, transactions with people, with material, with things and all, if we are able to remove the ideas which we have, preconceived ideas which we have about things, then you tend to arrive at the actual truth. I mean, a successful person like Dr. Ramning, why he is successful? Because he has cut down that non-essentials. He has cut down the non-essentials, and he has perceived his objective very clearly, and with that vision in mind, he has moved forward to achieve that objective, and he's a happy person. So that is how, I mean, in the Vyavaharika sense itself, we can understand this. Then you can understand what our sages and seers like Ramana Maharishi or our Mahun Mahaparival must have experienced. I mean, who are not into this Vyavaharika world, where they have to do these kind of transactions and all, the bliss they must be experiencing, because they have totally done away with all this. So that is the thing. So it is very, very important for us at this context to understand Shankara's methods and why he is hailed as a Jagat Guru. On the one hand, Shankara lived, I mean, there are two schools of thought. One is BCE, before Christian era, that is a period which is mentioned by some schools of thought. Then there is another one, he lived from 788 AD to 820 AD. He lived for hardly 32 years. I mean, about that, there is no conflict. But the period that it is BCE or AD, after Common Era, that is the confusion. I mean, not confusion, we would say schools of thought. So let us not get into that. What is very important is his philosophy, not the, very frankly, the historical perspective, and that we are not going to discuss here. So though that is important, but that is not our point of discussion here. So it is important to understand Shankara's methods and why he is hailed as a Jagat Guru. On the one hand, he has to his credit the loftiest of commentaries of the Prasthanatrayas. There are three very important works in our, I mean, let me use, I don't want to use the word, but for making it things easy, I'm using the word Hinduism. But you please, whenever I am saying Hinduism, you translate it into Sanatana Dharma. Okay. So in Hinduism, we have got three very important works. That is Brahma Sutra, and then Upanishads, and Bhagavad Gita. These are the three primordial works which we have. Okay, so he wrote commentaries on all the three. All of these works are the ones which tells us to understand our very basic nature, which is the Brahman. I am Atma Brahma, Prajnanam Brahma, Tattvamasi, Aham Brahmasmi. These are the four basic that we find in the four Vedas. Okay, we are guided by this. So, Brahma Sutra, Upanishads, and Bhagavad Gita, and he has also composed verses like the Nirvana Shatakam, then Atma Bodha, and Viveka Chudamani, and all. Okay, these are which talk about profoundly only about the Advaita philosophy. But on the other hand, this is what, I mean, when Madam tried to introduce, one is the Gnana, pure knowledge. The Brahman, the concept of Brahman is pure knowledge. Okay, but on the other hand, he has also composed stotras. Like all of you must be aware about the various stotras which he has composed on gods and goddesses with names and forms. The gods and goddesses with names and forms with an anthropomorphic body. Okay, they are called Saguna Brahman. Saguna, that is with attributes. This concept you please try to understand. Saguna means with attributes like Shiva, Vishnu, and all. They are all given weapons, this, that, and all. They also have a Vahana. So you are able to perceive Lord Shiva, you are able to perceive Lord Vishnu, you are able to perceive Brahma, and so on. Okay. So, but and the absolute Brahman, which these Saguna Brahmans represent, is Nirguna, without attributes. It doesn't have any attribute. Okay. Why? Because that the Brahman which you are talking about is none other than I myself. I myself is the Brahman I am talking about. Okay. Then the body and all this is going to perish. And the child I was born as Karthickeyan, am I the same now? I'm not. So it is taking different shapes, different A. Okay, the mind which I am talking about, the mind when I was a 1-year-old baby, is it the same mind I'm having now? No, the knowledge as a 1-year-old baby and now, it is different. So constantly there has been a change. Even while I am speaking, the cells within my body are getting dissolved and new cells are being formed. When you talk scientifically, every second I'm changing, right? But what we are talking about is the changeless one that is within me. So that is, once you understand that concept, then you are set to be a realized person. You are set to be a realized person, which means I don't have anything called samsara. I don't have anything called misery. So that is the thing. And people like Mahaparival or Ramana Maharishi, they are that, but for us, they are condescending to again talk to our level, do a vyavaharika with us. I mean, transact businesses with us. But left to themselves, they're absolute pure souls. That is how it is. So, Shankara, why he had to compose these stotras, why he had to bring in this Sagunam, he could have rested very well in some Kedar or Joshimat or some place. He's a realized soul. It is his only vision and his only purpose, because he's called an Avatara Purusha. He is none other than Lord Shiva himself. Okay, for him to take birth as Adi Shankara is only to make us realize about this aspect, that you are not what you are. I mean, and you will have to look into yourself to know exactly what you are. That is the purpose. So easier said than done. So that is why he said, for us to understand this point, we will have to prepare ourselves. And in this preparation comes all the Saguna Brahmans who are endowed with qualities of creation, qualities of sustenance and destruction and all. And they are called 5 functions are there. Srishti Sthiti Vilaya Tirodhana Anugraham. These 5 functions are attributed to these Saguna Brahmans. Srishti Sthiti Vilaya Tirodhana Anugraha Karana Kriya Kelanam. That is how Muthuswami Dikshidhar, the venerated composer, he sings when he is talking about Lord Shiva. So he is attributing these 5 principles to Lord Shiva. Okay, so that is how it is. And the need for Brahman with attributes, like once again I'm reading, was strongly felt, and Shankara intelligently weaved the Nirguna aspect of this Brahman into his stotras. Whenever you read Shankara's stotras and works, you will find he would be hailing the beautiful. Take for instance Saundarya Lahari, one of the greatest works of Adi Shankaracharya on Devi. I mean, you will find in the verses, he will be, I mean, in the most beautiful poetry, he will be, praising the Devi, but inside he will be keeping all the things that talks about the Advaita philosophy and the Sri Vidya Upasana, which is a very esoteric aspect of our age. Of course, Sri Vidya Upasana, it's a margam, which leads again to the realization of the absolute Brahman. But this is not the forum to discuss about Sri Vidya Upasana. So it is esoteric Devi worship. This much you know. That is enough. So when you read Saundarya, I mean, the meaning of the Saundarya Lahari, you will find all these are beautifully incorporated within that also. So the need for Brahman with attributes was strongly felt, and Shankara intelligently weaved the Nirguna aspect of Brahman into the Saguna worship. What is Saguna worship? The worshipping a Brahman which has attributes. Like we worship Karthickeya, like we worship Ganesha, like we worship that. So what he did during his times, it is said there are 72. You will have to tell me when I have to stop. I mean, you gave me 10 minutes. Yeah. Before that, you will have to tell me so that I will wind up. So, because this is an endless subject. So what happens is, what he did during his time, it is said, he traversed India 3 times. That is what Mahaprabhu tells in his works, in Devatin Kural, the voice of God, 7 volumes. Nothing need to be told more. Everything is covered, Mahaprabhu, in those 7 volumes. And in the 5th volume, sir, about 50% of the 5th volume is about Adi Shankara Bhagavad. It is such a wonderful work he has done. I mean, both the historical perspective as well as the philosophical perspective is brought out beautifully in the 5th volume of Devatin Kural, or the voice of God. So, what he integrated those 72 Durmatas which were then there during his time. Durmatas means, I mean, the matams are the practices, the sects, which are in fact harmful to the Jivatmans, the humans. Though they were practicing it, they were not correctly being done. I mean, all sacrifices, this, that, I mean, you name it, it was all there. So what he did, he successfully won over the practitioners of these 72 Durmatas. And then he established very firmly the 6 matams, which is called the SHANMATHAM. Now we are coming to the subject proper, the SHANMATHAM. The SHANMATHAM, what he did, he found in the Puranas, epics, and the time before him, all these gods, Ganapati, Ganapatyam, then Shakti, Shaktam, Shakti means Devi. Then you have Shiva, that is for Shaivam. Then you have Vainavam for Vishnu. Then you have Karthickeya for Kaumaram and Surya for Sauram. So all these 6 mathas, SHANMATHAS, he established. And the worshipping, and he also laid out And the Markandeya Samhita also has clear methods of worship of this. So he beautifully codified the worship of all these 6 devatas, primary devatas. So that is what he did. That is his greatest contribution. And to this day, it is being done all over India. The people, I have love for Shiva. So I worship. I take the path of Shaivam. I like Vishnu because he has taken manifestations. He's Rama, Krishna, everything is there. I have love for Vishnu. So I worship Vishnu for perfect. And Karthickeyan, I mean, he has got a beautiful peacock as his vahana, and he is very elegant. And he has got a spear, veil in his hand. So I worship. Wonderful. And Ganapati, nobody can beat him. So I mean, all over the world, Ganapati is very famous. So like that, I have a liking for that particular deity. I make him the main deity and worship. And that doesn't mean I'm condemning the other deities. Let us underline this three times. I like my Shiva. I am worshipping Shiva. That doesn't mean I condemn this. But very unfortunately, in the present days, all this warfare is taking place. I mean, over the time, not only now. When you see history, I mean, the Shaivas and Vaishnavas, they used to have fights. And even within the Vaishnavism, there are 2 sects, Tenkalai and Vadakalai. They used to have warfare, mind you. So all this also takes place. I mean, very unfortunate, but Adi Shankara definitely did not intend all this. So he established this, and he composed on all these deities wonderful stotras for us to, I mean, recite and do puja and so on. And like I told you, it is not that these Saguna Brahmams like Lord Shiva, Vishnu, Parvati, Lakshmi, Saraswati, and all of them. So all these deities, they were conceived well before the Shankara's time. It is not that Shankara, created these Saguna Brahmans. It was all there. The 18 Puranas which Vyasa composed had all these deities. And Vyasa, I mean, is a precursor to Shankara. So all these deities were there before his time. But his contribution, like I repeat, is the refined method of worship. That is the contribution which Shankara did. So Shankara's contribution not only is the worship. When you worship, slowly will elevate you. When you are doing that worship, when you are reciting those stotras, when you are doing that puja, he will elevate you and refine you to understand his original idea. And what is the original idea? Advaita. So what he is doing is preparing you. Like, for instance, please correct me, sir, when somebody is going to become a doctor, there are preparatory lessons. You don't get a certificate right the day you enter in a medical institution. So there is a preparatory period. Slowly you are being prepared to get that certificate. So that realization, the self-realization, it is a certificate. To get that certificate, you are being prepared. And that preparation, you only have to do. You only will have to do with the aid of a guru. A guru will be there. He will guide you. But the work you will have to do. Like Ramani sir will guide you, but you will have to do the work. So similarly, the guru will guide you, and you will have to do the worship with one-pointedness. And it's a very big subject. So how this preparedness have to be done and all that. So it's 10 minutes. Okay, fine. So Shankara, like I told you, gave us 6 walking sticks, you can say. And we have to hold on to any one of them to understand the truth. And in this, what very beautifully he did introduced was the Panchayatana Puja. He introduced what is called the Panchayatana Puja, so that there is no fight between you and me. Okay, I'm saying Shiva is great, so I will only worship Shiva. So he did away with that. What he did, what he introduced beautifully was, that is a masterpiece of Adi Shankaracharya. He introduced what is called Panchayatana Puja. What he did, this SHANMATHAM, all the deities we will have in our puja room. And in what form? It will not have any form. Yes, sir. In this doing of this Panchayatana Puja, the deities where we will be actually offering our Abhishekam or air, they are pieces of stones or spatikas. I mean, it doesn't have any form. As lingam, okay, all that. And Shankara himself, he was blessed with the 5 lingas. Mukti linga, he got it from Lord Shiva. That is the accepted thing, that he went to Kailash and he got from Shiva himself and Parvati herself, the 5 lingas. Okay. I mean, it is for us to believe or not believe. That is a different thing. But the point is, he got 5 lingas called Mukti Linga, which he established at the Kedarnath. Varalinga, he established in Pashupatinath. Bhoga Linga in Sringeri. Then Moksha Linga in Chidambaram. And Yoga Linga in Kanchipuram. And that thereby he brought about kind of a national integration also from north to south. He consecrated all these lingas, I mean, from north to south, to bring out a kind of a national integration also. And similarly, like I told you, these murtis, you know, Ganesha, small pieces of stones are got from Shonbhadra. It is called Shonabhadra. It is from river Son. Okay. It is from river Son, which is near Patna. It is a tributary of Ganga. Okay. And then Shiva, you get it from Narmada river. In the Narmada river, when you go, and Adi Shankara, I mean, Mahaparival said he used to, as a boy, he used to dive down and get those. And Vishnu Saligramam, you will get it in Nepal. Okay. And then Shakti, you will get the Swarna Rekha. This is also a kind of, which will get it in Andhra Pradesh, in Swarnamukhi river. That is near Gudur. And then for Surya, you have this Spatikam. Okay, which you get it near Tanjavur. There is a lake in Tanjavur called the Vallam Lake. In the Vallam Lake, you get that small piece of thing. So all these photographs which you hung, the Tanjavur paintings which you hung in our puja room, it is aesthetic, no doubt about it. But the Panchayatana Puja are being done to those kind of stones and spatikas which have no particular form or anything. Whatever you get, that is your way. So that is the thing. So, I mean, what does it mean? It means I am talking about Shiva, I am talking about Shakti, I am talking about Ganesha, but you see, they don't really have a form. I mean, he's leading you slowly to the Nirgunatvam. From the Sagunatvam, the Tanjavur painting, he is leading you through this Panchayatana Puja, those small pieces of stones, to Nirgunatvam. That is the greatness of Adi Shankara. So, he is therefore, and one point which you have to remember, what about then Kaumaram, that is Karthickeyan, Subramanya? Where is it? Where is it available? So, Subramanya is the primordial Pranavartarthopadeshena. I mean, he is the one who did Upadesam to the Dakshinamurti Shiva about the Pranamam. He is the ultimate. It is Pranava Swarupa. I mean, who? Lord Subramanya. So he doesn't have a form. So in the Panchayatana Puja, you will not have any stone or anything for Subramanya, because the moment you start doing any stotra, you start with Om. And that Om itself is Subramanya. But still, we guys, we want some form. So Mahaparivar, it seems, he said, you keep a veil, the spear. In the Panchayatana Puja, that tattu, so you keep a veil, spear, made of brass or silver or whatever. You keep a veil. So but that is not mandatory. But people keep. Okay. So that is one thing. I just wanted to clarify about it. So this Panchayatana Puja, like I told you, is something. It is a master stroke of Adi Shankaracharya in establishing the SHANMATHAM, which is aimed at understanding the true self of ourselves, the true nature of ourselves. That is the thing. Actually, this is a wonderful book which I got. I strongly recommend this book to user. In case you are not already seen this. Adi Shankaracharya, Hinduism's greatest thinker, Pawan Kumar Verma, is a Rajya Sabha member. Pawan Kumar Verma, it is a very objectively written book. No mumbo jumbo. All the miracles that are attributed to Adi Shankara and all, you will not find in this book. So it is very objectively written. So that is, I really like this book, reading this. But another book is T.M.P. Mahadevan's work on Adi Shankara Bhagavad. T.M.P. Mahadevan, it is totally a philosophical book, T.M.P. Mahadevan's book. But I believe this generation would appreciate this book. If possible, you get hold of this book. That's why I brought this book. Pawan Kumar Verma is a Rajya Sabha member. He has written very beautifully, and he has also drawn parallels of Adi Shankara Bhagavad this point of singularity, which is the Advaita, to one of the greatest discoveries that are now being done in physics by Stephen Hawking and the like. Eisenhower, Stephen Hawking. He's quoting those verses, which have parallels in the understanding of the universe, the multiverse, the universe. It is endless, infinite. Okay. The infinite universe, it's being talked about in this the Upanishads and all very many times. So in Shankara's works also, in Stotras also, you will find that Adi Antamilla Parabanadi. In a Tamil song it comes. There is no Adi, no Antam. Okay. So I will just finish today's talk with a quote from Pawan Kumar Verma. I'll read it just 2 times so that it becomes clear to you all. I just noted it down yesterday. I thought this passage is very important. While crystal clear at the parameter or ontological level of the soul cosmic plenitude of Brahman. While crystal clear at the parameter or the ontological level of the soul cosmic plenitude of Brahman, he was too much of a pragmatist. See, he is rolling in a level which is not understandable to us, the Brahman level. What Brahman? We are all stupefied. So he is rolling in that level. He was too much of a pragmatist, not to concede at the lower Vyavaharika plane many of the practices that make up the world of the ordinary aspirant to spirituality. So he was too much of a pragmatic person to ignore us. That is what the essence of that. What he is saying is, Shankara was so pragmatic, so practical, and was not selfish that he understood our need in the Vyavaharika level, what is required. He understood that the attributeless Brahman may appear to be far too abstract. The attributeless Brahman will be far too abstract for the mortal seeking more accessible forms of redemption or succor. So that is why Shanmatham, that is why Panchayatana Puja. So that is why he established. Had he been only discussing in his level the philosophy, Advaita philosophy, I don't think he would have stood the test of times. Shankara would have been there and he would have been gone in 50 years after his death. Nobody would be talking about Shankara. It is because of Adi Shankara's pragmatism, this practical approach, that to this day, his philosophy is still sustaining. Why? Because he has made it user-friendly. A handbook, a manual which comes with the computer or the mobile, like when I told you, suppose that manual itself is confusing, not understandable. So what is the point? So what he did, he was so practical that he introduced these two ideas of Shanmatham and Panchayatana Puja. And with this, I once again thank you, sir, for giving this wonderful opportunity. I must have to mention the name of Dr. Saptagirish, who is a good friend of mine from Kolkata, and his wife. And he's the one who actually came to my residence and said, Karthickeyan ji, you will have to come and do. I don't know how I fit the bill. I really do not know. I am actually a student of music. And of course, Muthuswami Dikshidhar is a philosopher par excellence. And for people who could be interested, I am giving a talk on Muthuswami Dikshidhar on the 18th. It will be a Zoom meet about his contributions. With that, thank you very much, sir.
Dear friends, it has been extremely nice of Sir to have given an exposition on Shanmata at the end of it. All of us have heard the common expression, Akashat patitam thoyam, shagaram pradigacchati. The water which comes from the heaven, from the skies, it takes different forms, different rivers, different rivulets, and all of them together, they join the ocean. Similarly, all over the world, so many sects, so many religions, all of them, they come from the heaven, they take different paths, and ultimately all of them reach the ocean. So that is a very deep philosophy which all of us should understand. Adi Shankara Bhagavad-padas singularly Aham Brahmasmi. That's one single message for all of us. Aham Brahmasmi. I am the Brahman. It's Advaita. It's not divided into two, it is only one. I am the Brahman. There is a Brahman in you and there is a Brahman in me. Someone expressed beautifully when you say Namaskaram to somebody, they say the Brahman in me meets the Brahman in you and I just pay my respects. So what happens is when you realize that there's a Brahman which is in you is in somebody else, maybe a patient, maybe somebody whom you're serving yourself. When you serve the patient, you're serving yourself. Very often I used to mention that doctors, all of you should remember that at the end of the operating microscope, there is someone who is somebody's father, somebody's mother, somebody's brother, wife, husband, son or daughter. That should be there in your mind so that you give the best. Similarly, beyond that, there is a Brahman in that person, the Brahman in you and the Brahman in me. It's the same. That's the Advaita philosophy. See, the idea of organizing this kind of a lecture is to listen to something totally different. We are all busy morning till evening with our eye care work or the back office work, the administrative work, something beyond. So I was just briefly, I was with Sabdagirish a couple of days back in Bangalore. He said the first meeting is organized, and it was so nice of him to have come and spend the time with us. Tomorrow, those of you who would be interested, of course, only if you know Tamil, you will be able to enjoy that. It is on Bharatiyar, the national poet Bharatiyar. So how relevant Bharatiyar was there at that time, pre-independence period, subsequently, and even today and in future. That is the topic. It is in Suburban High School at 6:30 in the evening. There is a wonderful orator by the name Bharati Krishna Kumar. I have actually brought him here once some time back. He came and wonderful. He's also a cine director, and he's a writer as well. So he's going to talk on that. Some of you are interested, you can come at 6:30 to Suburban High School, Ramnagar, where there is an air-conditioned hall. He's going to talk on that. So the whole idea, I was just telling Dr. Sabdagirish, there will be a periodicity. We'll invite people from different walks of life to come and talk to us on subjects which are beyond our routine. Sir, thank you so much. We appreciate you coming all the way and then sharing your deep thoughts with us. You have to say something? Yeah, please. Okay. So this is the memento which has been designed beautifully by Shankara Academy of Vision. It says Shikshana, Certificate of Gratitude. B. Karthickeyan, nurturing budding minds to bloom to their fullest, inspiring young minds to shine the brightest, kindling the curious minds to discover the unearthed, empowering enthusiastic minds to take path untraversed, inculcating values and compassion, shaping personalities, motivating to fly beyond the horizon and all impossibilities. So 10th September 2022, given by the Shankara Academy of Vision. Something we should know. Maybe around 20 years back, we used to have, I think Shruti might remember, every week, one day in the morning for about 15 minutes, I used to conduct a program called Short Eats. Short Eats is what? Norkutini. Norkutini is Short Eats. So in that, we used to meet in this very